In order to punish Aelin for the whole Lysandra lie, he decides to punish Fenris because she knows that that's going to hurt Aelin. And in order to punish Fenris, she knows the worst thing she could do is kill Connell. And actually, worse than her killing Connell, it would be getting Connell to kill himself. So, yeah, Fenris has to watch his twin brother, who he loves more than anyone else in the world, commit suicide. He literally gets a dagger and stabs himself in the heart. Like, it's awful. And Fenris is wrecked. And then Aelin watching Fenris suffer. That's awful for her. And Aelin's so angry. She gets one of the shards of glass she's kneeling on top of, because, you know, Maeve made her kneel on top of glass. She manages to cut Kane and cut Maeve. Just for a second, Maeve's blood's black. Gagarella, I mean, we've read Tower of Dawn. We know Maeve's a Balg, but Aelin doesn't until this point. And then Fenris, you know, he's removing all the glass from Aelin because it's all embedded in her. And it's awful because even though she's been through pain, they know it's just going to get healed. And she's going to get hurt again and again, potentially for God knows how many years. Meanwhile, back in Terrasen, Lysandra and like the armed forces, they've gone and they've met Erwin's forces, attacked Eldris, that legion that's made it into their country. Now, even though Erwin has sent 5,000 soldiers, the guys managed to take them out. And so you're thinking, great, a slay for Team Galathinius. But then we get a surprise that literally made me go, what? Because a messenger comes with something from Darrow, and that messenger is Nox Owen. You might be thinking, Christy, who's Nox Owen? I've never heard that name before. Back in book 1, during the competition to become the King's Champion, when Aelin saved someone's life during one of the rounds of the competition, and it meant she didn't win that round, and Kane was all like, oh, better go after Selena Sardothian. Well, no. At that point, I think they all think she's called Liliana. Or Lillian. Yeah, it was a long time ago now. The guy she saved, that's Nox Owen. And he reappears in Kingdom of Ash. First of all, he's still alive. And second of all, he's on Team Galathinius. He doesn't know that Aelin is Selena and Selena was Lillian. That's all. But yeah, the message ain't great. The message says, you guys better bring that army to me ASAP. So Darrow and the Lords of Terrasen, they're demanding that the army come to them. Meanwhile, Mabez, Nezran, and Sartak, they fly back to the ship, you know, that's coming into Errolayer, and they're kind of sailing around the side so that they can come up high. Rather than just joining right at the southernmost point, they're trying to sail up the side and get themselves to Terrasen. Nezran and Sartak, they've spotted an army of about 10,000 soldiers heading towards Aniel, which we have mentioned before because Kael's father is the Lord of Aniel. It's Kael's home, basically. Turns out what the army's planning to do is to take Aniel, because it's a northern sort of stronghold, cure the space around it called the Ferrian Gap, and then head up to Terrasen kind of via Aniel and the Ferrian Gap. Which Kael is obviously like, oh no, that's where my family is. So he and Irene plan to jump on a rook and fly ahead to talk to the Westfall family and be like, guys, prepare yourselves, war is coming your way. So while the tension is building, we cut back to Aelin, and May's been doing all this really Scream Mind stuff with her, like letting us see all these perfect dream sequences or imagining her as a child with her family, and Homegirl's like emotionally a mess. But as she's in this coffin, she can actually, oh, I'm gonna cry. She can feel the spirit of her mother and how much her mum loves her and believes in her. And she is really, really vulnerable. Like, we get to see a side of Aelin that we haven't in any of the books so far, and that's the little girl inside who's just lost everything. You know, she is fully down at the bottom of the emotional scale. She's wrecked and she just wants her mum, and her mum's dead and she's never gonna get to see her again. Oh no, oh no. Stop crying. Anywho, what she's reminded of is that more than anything else, her parents, her mum, her family, the people that care about her and know her, they they believe in her, and her mum just tells her, like, don't give up. You do not yield, Aelin. And Aelin's like, I'm afraid and I don't know what to do. And her mum's like, you always know what to do. You're my precious baby. You're perfect. You'll just push on through. You know I love you so much. And yeah, it's real rough. It's really rough. And this reminds Aelin how important it is for her to keep going. So she starts banging on the coffin. She starts hammering away. And because she almost breaks it, this allows a little bit of like magic to get through. So Rowan can sense her. And now Rowan knows where she is because the people that love her don't give up on her. And so Team Rescue Aelin, they now know she's definitely in Dorinel. And so Rowan says, right, gotta move fast. We've got categoric proof of where she is. We need to lure Maeve out the city so that we can go, slip in, and rescue my wife. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel now. The team are almost at Aelin, who needs rescuing so bad. Meanwhile, my other iconic leading lady, Manon, she and the 13 and Dorian have followed this Stygian spider, and she has led them to a group of about 75 Crocom witches, like more Crocom witches than Manon and the 13 have like ever seen in one place. And it turns out the witch that's in charge of this big group is Glenys, Manon's great-great-grandmother. So they're there, no one knows who to trust. But an Iron Teeth patrol comes along, and it's two covens of Yellowlegs, who we do not like. They are the bad uns. Dorian almost gets eaten by one of the wyverns, but he manages to turn his entire body into just pure flame. And so it burns the wyvern alive. And to all these Crocom witches, Manon is like, I did not lead them here. I would never do that. I'm so against all the Iron Teeth witches now. I've turned good. And Dorian is hearing her say it like, you totally wanted to save everybody. You 100% led those Iron Teeth witches here so that you could save all the Crocons and earn their favor. Which, let's just say, is a brilliant parallel between Manon and Aelin. When Aelin went to Skulls Bay and attracted all of those Valg there and then got to save them in front of Rolf. And then Manon does the exact same kind of maneuver with the Crocom witches. And Dorian is the one that in both situations is like, you are a liar, a sneaky, sneaky liar. Oh, I love that because Dorian's the only common thread as well. Manon doesn't know that happened. She doesn't know that was Aelin's move. And they're just such good mirrors of each other. There's this whole symbolism of, yeah, we are of a similar ilk. We are both fierce, ferocious women. And I just love that for one, Dorian is this twin flame. For Aelin, they are best friends. They are kindred spirits. But for Manon, that's where Dorian's at. That's why he couldn't be with Aelin, guys, because he was meant to be with Manon. You bet he is. Anywho, we find out that Glenys is Manon's father's grandmother, and that Manon's dad was called Tristan, and I love that name. Actually, if I had a son, I'd call him Tristan. I love that name so much. It reminds me of Stardust. Anywho, Manon meets her cousin Bronwyn, and Bronwyn's like, the Crocom witches will never follow you. You are a menace, you are evil, you are an Iron Teeth witch, and you've killed lots of us. And I'm not gonna lie, I get where Bronwyn's coming from, but I also do not jive with anyone who is being mean about Manon. Okay? Just do what she wants. She's an icon. She's a legend. She's the moment. She's Manon Blackbeak. Now, Dorian has spent a decent amount of time with the Stygian spider at this point, and he realizes that Stygian spiders are a kind of Valg. The main crew, that they're catching up to things we already know. So good for them that they're figuring it out in their own time. Dorian encourages Manon to talk to Glenys and ask her, well, how could I win favour with the Crocom witches? And Glenys tells Manon that only a true queen of the Crocom witches can light the flame of war. It's like this magical lighting of the beacons that summons all of the Crocom witches to her in order to fight. Basically take this magical flame that's been burning in the hearth of the Crocom camp to each of the hearths of the other Crocom camps. Like, it is literally like lighting the beacons. Manon has to be accepted as queen before she's able to do that. So Homegirl needs to figure out how to become Queen of the Crocans so she can light the fire so that everyone will believe that she's the Queen of the Crocans. Simple. Turns out the Crocan witches are all getting together and heading down to Elwë because there are Crocan witches who live down there who are being affected by, all the raping, pillaging, fire, burning, war, basically. Meanwhile, back up in Terracin, Darrow has summoned Aelin, even though it's Lysandra, to come and meet with the Lords. And all of them are voting on where they should take the army next. And the general consensus is Orinth. We're going to go to Orinth. It's like the capital city of Terracin. But as they're having the meeting, a Valg enters the tent and says that Erwin has sent him and he attacks Lysandra. Unfortunately, during the attack, the Valg can smell Lysandra's blood. And obviously, the Valg, they can all communicate by their minds. So this is how the baddies find out that Aelin isn't in Terracin at all. Because he smells shapeshifter blood on Lysandra and is like, well, then that's definitely not Aelin Galathinius. And he sends the message around all the rest of the Valks. So now Erwin knows Aelin isn't where everyone thinks she is. The baddies have cottoned on. It did not take long. Now Aedion decides he's going to ignore what the Lords want and that he's going to take his army to the border instead of to Orinth. Now Nox, Owen, my mum from book 1, finds Lysandra and tells her he knows that she must be a shapeshifter and not Aelin Galathinius because homeboy knew Selena Sardothian and Lysandra didn't recognize him at all. She's like, I know you're not the real Queen of Terracin because I've just found out that the Queen of Terracin is Selena Sardothian, who I know, and you didn't recognize me, so that doesn't add up. But he also reveals he was a spy for the rebels all the way back in book 1. Nox Owen has always been on Team Galathinius, and he just didn't know that Selena was his queen that he was spying for. Now Lysandra says to Nox, look, I'm her best friend. Obviously there is a plan afoot. Would you help me out? And Nox is like, if it's to help out Selena Sardothian, of course, woman saved my life. So he gives all of the Lords this laced wine that knocks them all out. And by the time the Lords have woken up, my lot have all skipped town. They're taking the army to the border no matter what the Lords want. At the same time, my man Chaol and his new wife Irene have landed at Aniel. And they meet with Chaol's father and they tell him, look, there is an army of about 10,000 baddies coming your way. You need to prepare. It's just super fun for Irene, to meet the man that abused and traumatized her husband for the first time. She's like, I've got your measure, ma'am. It's also funny because she's meeting her in-laws. This is a new family. And she's like, we love Irene. And then all the rooks arrive at Aniel, but it turns out the army, on foot, that's come with them from the southern continent, they're not going to be able to get to Aniel before the Morath forces get to Aniel. So it's going to be a case of the Antican air forces fighting the Morath land army that's on its way to Chaol's home. While all this war is building up in Terracin, over in Aniel, we cut back to my girl, Aelin Galathinius, and Maeve is employing some of her evil mental warfare tactics and trying to give Aelin false memories of what it would have been like if Erwin had never come to Erelea. And Maeve tells Aelin her story, which we know quite a bit of from Tower of Dawn, but now we get to hear it from Maeve's POV in her own words. And I'm going to read this on the iPad so that I don't get it wrong. She says that a young queen, obviously talking about herself, was born in a world where magic isn't inherited, it's just born, and that she had power unlike anyone else. So these 3 kings came to find her and kind of battle for her hand, and she chose the oldest, not because he was the oldest or the most powerful, but because he had an insane library, and what she craved was knowledge. Within that library, she discovered that there were worlds different to her own, ones where the skies were blue and the land was green. And she fell in love with the idea that there were worlds that were colourful, because where she lived, everything was awful. And while creating doors between worlds had been forbidden years and years and years ago, Homegirl finds within that library the spells to be able to do it. So she came to a new world and she became a queen there too. Now we know she did some shenanigans to be called a queen, but she managed it. The sun has started shining directly into the room. I'm going to have to tuck right over in the corner because otherwise I can't see it so bright in my eyes. Anywho, these three kings eventually found the world that Maeve was in, but they didn't recognize her. So she sent two of them back, and the third one was so broken that he hid. These three kings, they had made keys. They'd made these little stones that basically allowed them to walk amongst any world they wanted to. Maeve tells Aelin, look, I want the keys so that I can banish Erwin back to his world and keep this world lovely. This is my home. Really, I just want to save Erelea. So, babe, please, where are the keys hidden? Let me help you. But my homegirl Aelin ain't no sucker, okay? Maeve's been trying to make all these false memories and she's presenting herself as a nice person. Aelin's like, absolutely not, you utter evil troglodyte. And Maeve is just insistent that, look, I don't want to destroy this world. I want to save it. I live here. I want to keep the place safe. Let me. And Maeve's like, no, screw you, evil woman. You're one of them. So Maeve drops the kind veneer and she says, I've heard that there is a Valg commander nearby. So I'm going to go, I'm going to find him, and I'm going to take the collar off of his dead body. And then I'm going to use that collar to control you, Galathinius. Because obviously Maeve can use the collars for mind control because she is in fact an evil Valg. But it turns out Rowan knows Maeve very, very well. And he knew that she wouldn't pass up the opportunity to get her hands on a collar that would help her mind control Aelin. So Rowan had a lead pop into this bar, this like little local tavern, and start chatting shit about a captured Valg prince and how cool isn't that, so that the rumor would make its way to Maeve. This has obviously worked and the message has got to Maeve. Now a lead is planning to go into the city and start nosing around trying to find where Kane is, because if she finds Kane, she'll find out where they're hiding Aelin. Meanwhile, over in Terrasen, Lysandra is scouting ahead of the army in her bird form, and she sees that 5 Valg princes are leading an army of like 50,000 Valg soldiers towards Terrasen's army. But the group they've got with them, there's only 25,000 of them. They are outnumbered 2-1. And as the fighting's happening and they're getting destroyed by the Valg, Lysandra obviously can't fight with fire, and so all the soldiers are like, why isn't Aelin Galathinius helping us? Why isn't she destroying these Valg with her magic fire powers we hear so much about? Dun dun dun! Meanwhile, a lead finds a tavern with a ton of Fae soldiers there. So homegirl lies and's like, my name is Finula. Kane told me to come. Now they won't tell her where Kane is, but they do let her know, oh, Maeve's headed out of Doranel because she's out looking for that collar. But a lead leaves the tavern and one of the Fae follows her. And this Fae says that her name's Isara and's like, babe, you should stay away from Kane. He's not a good guy. So obviously Isara's a nice lady. Isara reveals that Kane is over at the Eastern camp. And Isara's like, babe, just as an FYI, I know you're here with Rowan and Lorcan because your outfit is a hodgepodge of their clothes. And I know Rowan and Lorcan quite well. I actually used to be Lorcan's girlfriend. Which is a gag. So Leed's like, really? But Asar and her sister Dresenda, they give a lead a heads up. Oh, the watch at the camp, it's probably weakest at dawn. So if you were to go over there, I'd recommend going early in the morning. And Asar reveals that she visited Mistward in the spring when Aelin was over training with Rowan. So she has met Aelin and wants to help him out. You know, she's like, I've met her. She's a good one. Let me help you.